Hey everyone, welcome back to the ANSYS Meshing Masterclass. It's great to have you here for session 2, brought to you by your friends at CFDLand.com. Last time we got our fifth vet by understanding what ANSYS Meshing is all about and why getting that mesh quality right is so super important. Today we're taking the next exciting step. We're going to dive deep into understanding mesh types. Think of it like learning about the different kinds of building blocks you can use to construct your perfect simulation world. So, what you learn today is all about giving you the power to first differentiate between structured and unstructured meshes. We'll make it crystal clear what makes them different. Next, you'll be able to identify common 2D and 3D cell types, or elements as they're often called. You'll know your triangle from your tetrahedrons in no time. Then we'll help you understand the concepts of hybrid meshes, which is really clever way to get the best of both worlds. And finally, and this is super practical, you'll learn to recognize the pros, cons, and typical application of each mesh type. By the end of the session, you'll have a much clearer picture of the different mesh strategies out there, setting you up to make smarter choices for your own projects. Ready to become a bit more of a mesh expert? Let's go. Alright, so when we talk about creating a mesh, we're not just randomly throwing elements at our geometry. There are actual strategies involved. At a high level, we can group this into three main mesh strategies. First up, we have the structured grid. The easiest way to think about this is like perfectly ordered grid. Imagine a sheet of graph papers. All the elements line up neatly and they have a very regular, predictable connection with your neighbors. Super organized. Then we have the unstructured mesh. Now, this is where things get more flexible. With an unstructured mesh, the elements can be arranged with much more freedom. There is no strict pattern they have to follow. This makes them incredibly good at fitting around really complicated shapes. And finally, we have the hybrid mesh. The name kind of gives it away, right? A hybrid mesh is a smart combination where we actually use structured meshes in some parts of our geometry and unstructured mesh in others, all within the same setup. As it says on this slide, each strategy has its place depending on your geometry and what you're trying to achieve with your simulation goals. There's no single best one all the time. It's about picking the right tool for the job. Let's zoom in on our first type, structured meshes, which we've subtitled Order and Efficiency, and that really sums them up. So what are they exactly? As we said, the elements are arranged in a really regular repeating pattern. If you're working in three-dimensional, you can even think about them having an I, J, K index, just like coordinates in a grid. It's all about that neat, organized layout, like perfectly stacked bricks. The common elements you'll find in the structured meshes are primarily quadrilaterals, or quads for short. If you're doing a two-dimensional mesh, an hexahedral or hex cells for three-dimensional, think squares and cubes, though they can be stretched a bit. Now for the good stuff, the pros. One of the biggest advantages is that you can often achieve excellent element quality. This means your cells are well-shaped, which is fantastic for accuracy. They tend to be numerically efficient for solvers. In simple terms, the computer can often solve the math faster on these well-organized grids, and you get really good control over how the elements are distributed. But like everything, there are cons. The main challenge is that they can be difficult or sometimes even impossible to apply to very complex geometries. If you have lots of tricky curves and details, forcing a structured grid onto it can be a real headache. And because of that, they often require more manual effort to create. You might need to do something called geometry blocking, which takes a bit more skill and time. But still, when you can use them, structured meshes are pretty awesome. Next up, let's talk about unstructured meshes, and the key word here is flexibility for complexity. These are the heels when your geometry starts to get a bit wide. So what makes them unstructured? Well, there's no inherent order in how the elements connect to each other. They don't have to follow a strict grid pattern. This means the elements can be different shapes and sizes, and they can beautifully adapt to really complex shapes. Think of filling a beautifully shaped jar with marbles. They just find their place. The common elements you'll see most often in unstructured meshes are triangles for two-dimensional problems and tetrahedral for three-dimensional. Tets are like little 3D pyramids. Sometimes you'll also see pyramid-shaped cells used to help transition between different types of elements. Now let's look at the pros of going unstructured. The biggest win is that they are excellent for highly complex geometries. Got lots of curves, holes, and intricate bits, unstructured meshes can handle it. The meshing process can be highly automated. Often you can just tell the software to go mesh this complex thing, and it'll do a pretty good job without tons of manual work. And because of automation, it's relatively quick to generate an initial mesh. But of course, there are some cons to keep in mind. They can result in lower average quality elements compared to a really well-made structured mesh, especially if you're not careful with the setting. You may require more elements to achieve the same level of accuracy in certain situations compared to a structured mesh, and a really important one for things like CFD, bound layer resolution, needs a special care. You often need to add specific layers of elements near walls, like prism layers, to capture the physics correctly. So, unstructured meshes offer amazing flexibility, especially when time and complexity are big factors. Okay, we've seen structured, nice and orderly. We've seen unstructured, super flexible. But what if you want the advantages of both? Well, say hello to hybrid meshes, the best of both worlds. So what exactly is a hybrid mesh? It's pretty clever. It combines structured elements, often those nice hexahedral or prism layers, and unstructured elements like tetrahedral in different regions within the same domain. So part of your mesh might look structured, another part might look unstructured. Now, why would we want to do this? This is where it gets really practical, especially for things like fluid flow simulations. We often use structural layers, like those prisms or wedges called we'll talk more about soon, right near the walls of our geometry. Why? Because these layers are fantastic at accurately capturing what are called bound layers, areas where things like fluid velocity change really rapidly. Getting this right is crucial for accurate results. Then in the core flow region, or in parts of the geometry that are really complex and further away from these critical walls, we can use unstructured elements like tetrahedral for their flexibility and ease of generation. The pros of this approach are pretty compelling. It really balances accuracy in those critical regions like near walls with the ease of meshing for complex part of your geometry. And it can lead to more efficient solution than using a fully unstructured mesh everywhere, because those structured layers can be very effective. Are there any cons? Well, they can be a bit more complex to set up initially because you're managing different mesh types, and you need careful management of the interface. That's the boundary where the structured part of a mesh meets the unstructured parts. Hybrid meshes are really powerful technique, and you'll see them used a lot in advanced simulations. Now that we've talked about the big mesh strategies, let's zoom in a bit further and look at the actual building blocks themselves. These are the common cell or element shapes. Think of this as the individual Lego bricks you use to build your mesh. First, let's look at two-dimensional shapes. You've got triangles. These are simple, three-sided elements, and they're super flexible for meshing around complex 2D boundaries and curves. Then you have quadrilaterals or quads. These are four-sided elements. They can often offer better quality and efficiency, especially when you're creating those nice ordered structural layers in two-dimensional. Now let's jump into 3D shapes. First up are tetrahedra or tet. You can think of this as 3D triangles. They have four triangular faces like little pyramids. They are incredibly flexible and are the workhorses for filling up complex 3D volumes, especially in those unstructured meshes we talked about. Next are hexahedra or hexas. These are your 3D quads, like little cubes or bricks. They are ideal for getting top-notch quality and efficiency, especially in structured meshes. Then we have prisms, which are also sometimes called wedges. These are really important. They often have triangular base and are extruded up, or they can have a quadrilateral base that tapers. You'll see these used all the time for creating those crucial boundary layers in hybrid meshes. They are excellent for capturing gradients or rapid changes that happen perpendicular to a wall. And finally, pyramids. These typically have a screw base that tapers to a point, and they play a vital role as transition elements. Imagine you have a layer of hex cells and you want to switch to tet cells. Pyramids help make that connection smooth. So those are your main players. Knowing these shapes and what they're good for is another big step toward becoming a mesh expert. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground on mesh types and cell shapes. So the big question you might be asking is, which mesh type is best? And the honest answer is it depends. There is no magic, one-size-fits-all solution. Instead, choosing wisely involves thinking about a few key considerations. First, geometry complexity. Is your shape pretty simple, like a pipe or a block? Then a structured mesh might be fantastic. Is it incredibly complicated with lots of curves and tiny details? Then you're probably learning toward an unstructured or a hybrid approach. Next, the physics involved. What are you trying to simulate? If you're doing CFD, those bound layers near walls are almost always super important, which means you'll likely need prism layers, often as part of a hybrid mesh. Then your accuracy requirements. For some problems, structured meshes, if you can make them, can offer high accuracy with fewer cells. And finally, computational resources and time. How much computing power do you have, and how quickly do you need to get the mesh done? Structured meshes can be more efficient for the solver, but automated unstructured meshing can be much faster to actually generate the mesh itself. The main takeaway here is that understanding these different types and their pros and cons empowers you to make informed decisions. It's all about picking the right meshing strategy for your specific job to get efficient and accurate simulations. What's next? In our very next session, session 3, we're going to start getting even more hands-on in ANSYS meshing. We'll be looking at global mesh controls and basic sizing techniques. You definitely won't want to miss that as we start to put this knowledge into practice. Thank you so much for joining us. If this session was helpful, please give us a like, subscribe to the CFDLand channel, and share this video with your friends, classmates, and your engineering groups. Every bit of support helps us create more free content like this for all you awesome learners.